Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Shri Radhe. Jayo Sitaram, Jayo Sitaram, Jayo Sitaram, Lakshman Hanuman. Jayo Sitaram, Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Jai Gauranitai ki, Jai Shri Radha Gokulananda ki. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamine. Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarini Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Gadadara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Welcome to Gaurarati, everyone. You have the song just here, so you can sing with us. Jayo Jayo Gaura Chande Aratika Shobha. Jayo Jayo Gaura Chande Aratika Shobha. Jana Vita Tavani Jagamanalobha. Jana Vita Tavani Megadadhara Nikate Advaita Shrini Vacha Shatradhara Nikate Advaita Shrini Vacha Shatradhara. Vachiyache Gorachan Ratna Simhasane korena Brahma Adi Devagane Narahari Adi Kori Chamaradhula Sanjaya Mukunda Vachu Goshadi Gaya Sanjaya Mukunda Vachu Goshadi Gaya Sankha Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Bhaje Karatara Madhura Mirdanga Bhaje Paramarasara Madhura Mirdanga Bhaje Paramarasara Madhura Mirdanga Bhaje Paramarasara Madhura Mirdanga Bhaje Paramarasara Sankha Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Madhur 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 Bhaje Sankha Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Madhur 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 Bhaje Sankha Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Madhur 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 Bhaje Gorangera Ratika Shobha Janer Janamana Loma Gorangera Ratika Shobha Janer Janamana Loma Shobha Janer Janamana Lobha Sankha Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Madhur 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 Bhaje Sangha bhaje, Ganta bhaje, Madhur, Madhur, Madhur bhaje. 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 Madhure, Madhure, Madhure bhaje. Madhure, Madhure, Madhure bhaje. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gora Hari Bol. Ribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Bahukati Chandrajini Vadana Ujjvala Bahukati Chandrajini Vadana Ujjvala Jala Deshe Banamala Dhala deshe banamala kore jahanamala. Shiva Shuka Naharada Preme Gada Gada Shiva Shuka Naharada Preme Gada Gada Bhakti Vinoda Dekhe Gorara Sampada Bhakti Vinoda Dekhe Gorara Sampada Bhakti Vinoda Dekhe Gorara Sampada Bhakti Vinoda dekhe Gaurara Sampada Bhakyati Vinoda dekhe Gaurara Sampada Gaurange Aradhika Shobha Janer Janamana Loba Gaurange Aradhika Shobha Janer Janamana Loba Gaurange Aradhika Shobha Janer Janamana Loba Janer Janamana Loba Gaurange Aradhika Shobha Janer Janamana Loba Sankha baje ganta baje Madur 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 baje 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 Namo Vishnu Padaya Naprishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vashali Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Ramo Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Viva! Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Govinda Madhava, Govinda Madhava, Govinda Madhava, Shri Radhe. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtorataya Chada Shri Srimad Diven Grashila Prabhupada Akid. Jaya Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Sharat Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Sarasvati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem se kao Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Dveta Gadadhara Shrivashadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki. Vrindavan Dhama Ki. Mathura Dhama Ki. Navadvip Mayapura Dhama Ki. Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki. Ganga Mai Ki. Yamuna Mai Ki. Tulasi Devi Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Gora Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you, everyone. So now we're going to have Nishimgadev prayer.
Namaste Narashrimhaya. Praladaladaine. Hiranyakashipu Vakshaha Shilatanka Nakalaye Hito Nishimho Parato Nishimho Yato Yato Yamitato Nishimho Bahir Nishimho Hiraye Nishimho Nishim Hamadim Sharanam Prapadye Tavakara Kamala Vale Nakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Blingam Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hale Jai Jagadisha Hale Jai Jagadisha Hale Kamala Vale Bhuta Shringa Kalita Hiranyakashipu Jaya Nirsimhadev Jaya Nirsimhadev Jaya Nirsimhadev Jaya Nirsimhadev Jaya Pradhan Maharaj Jaya Pradhan Maharaj Jaya Pradhan Maharaj Jaya Pradhan Maharaj Jayo Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki Jai, Srila Prahlad Maharaj ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gola Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you everyone for coming. You have the prasadam just served next door. So thank you everyone. Hare Krishna. There is also a Bhagavad Gita class in the temple room now, so please feel free to join. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me? Welcome to the evening Bhagavad Gita class. This is even for those who are joining online. I'll invite you to close your eyes and join me in this bhajan. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you all so much for coming in. Welcome to Bhagavad Gita, and we are in chapter 9. And today we are going to be doing verse 32. So if you have your Bhagavad Gita, if you can just open it up. So I'll just explain the format of the session in case. So what we will do is we will recite it for 3 times in Sanskrit, then I'll invite you to read. And then we will go through the word-by-word translation, because Sanskrit is such a beautiful language, and it's important to really get the essence of every word. Then we'll read the translation and Prabhupada's purport, and then we will have sharing of realizations, and of course, if you have any questions, we can take that. So that's how we will do. So do you all have it in front of you? Okay, that's good. So I'll read this 3 times, and then I'm going to invite you all to read. Mam hi partha vyapashritya vipisyuparna papayonayah striyo vaishyastatha shudra te piyanti param gatim. And could you repeat after me? Mam hi partha vyapashritya ye pisyuh papayonayah striyo vaishya tata shudra te piyanti param gatim. Let's do this one more time. Mam hi partha vyapashritya ye pisyu papayonayah striyo vaishya tata shudra te piyanti param gatim. Would anybody like to try? Mam hi partha vyapashritya ye pisyuh papayonayah shriyo vaishyas tata shudras te piyanti param gatim. Mam hi partha vyapashritya ye pisyu papayonayah striyo vaishyas tatha shudra te piyanti param gatim. Would you like to read the Sanskrit only? Yeah. Yeah. Mam hi partha, then we will follow you, if that's okay. Mam hi partha vyapashritya ye pisyu papayonayah striyo vaishyas tata shudra te piyanti param gatim. Okay. Mam hi partha vyapashritya episyoho papayonayaha striyo vaishyas tata shudras te piyanti param gatim. Let's read the word by word translation. Mom, of me, he, certainly. Partha, O son of Pritha, Vyapashritya, particularly taking shelter. Ye, those who, api, also, syuhu, are, papayonayaha, born of a lower family, striya, women, vaishyan, mercantile people, tatha, also, shudra, lower class men, tepi, even they, yanti, go, param, to the supreme, gatim, destination. Would anybody like to do that? We could have maybe one of you do it. Do the same. I mean, exactly like go word by word. Would you like to try? Yeah. Mom, of me, he, certainly, Partha, O son of Pritha, Vyapastriya, particularly taking shelter. Yea, those who, api, also, syu, are, papayonayaha, born of a lower family, striya, women, vaishya, mercantile people, tatha, also, shudraha, lower class men, te api, even they, yanti, go, param, to the supreme, gatem, destination. Thank you very much. So now we'll read the translation, and I will do it first, and then I'll invite you to do it. O son of Partha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, vaishyas, merchants, and shudras or workers, can attain the supreme destination.
O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, vaishyas, and sudras, can attain the supreme destination.
Thank you.
O son of Rita, don't you take shelter in me, don't you be of lower birth, women, Vashya, merchants, and Sudra, workers, that attain the supreme destination.
O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in you, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, and Sudras, can take the supreme destination, can attain the supreme destination.
O son of Partha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, and Shudras, workers, can attain the supreme destination.
Thank you. Now we'll read the purport, which makes Bhagavad Gita as it is so special, because many of the times we probably don't understand the translations. So Prabhupada has given a purport which also helps us understand the passage a little better. So I'm going to read this out, the purport, and then we will try to unpack the meaning of this particular verse. Purport. It is clearly declared here by the Supreme Lord that in devotional service, there is no distinction between the lower and higher classes of people. In the material conception of life, there are such divisions, but for a person engaged in transcendental devotional service to the Lord, there are not. Everyone is eligible for the supreme destination. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, chapter 4, verse 18, it is stated that even the lowest, who are called chandalas or dog eaters, can be purified by association with a pure devotee. Therefore, devotional service and the guidance of a pure devotee are so strong that there is no discrimination between the lower and higher classes of men. Anyone can take to it. The most simple man taking shelter of the pure devotee can be purified by proper guidance. According to the different modes of material nature, men are classified in the mode of goodness, brahmanas, the mode of passion, kshatriyas or administrators, the mixed modes of passion and ignorance, vaishyas or merchants, and the mode of ignorance, that is shudras or workers. Those lower than them are called chandalas, and they are born in sinful families. Generally, the association of those born in sinful families is not accepted by the higher classes. But the process of devotional service is so strong that the pure devotee of the Supreme Lord can enable people of all the lower classes to attain the highest perfection of life. This is possible only when one takes shelter of Krishna, as indicated here by the word vyapashritya. One has to take shelter completely of Krishna. Then one can become much greater than great jnanis and yogis. How wonderful. Jai. So there is, of course, so many things to really speak about, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin with a short overview of chapter 9. Then we'll go a bit deeper into into this part of chapter 9, and then we'll delve into the details of this particular verse. So can somebody tell me what is the name or for the chapter 9? So what yoga is it called? The most confidential knowledge, yes. And if you were to really look at it in Sanskrit, it's called Raja Vidya Raja Guhya. So Raja is supreme, or it's the highest. You can also call it king. Because in India, the kings were called Rajas. Vidya is knowledge. Vidya is knowledge. And then Raja again, and then Guhya. What's Guhya? Confidential, yes, indeed. So it's the most confidential knowledge that Krishna imparts. And there's also a reason why it comes right in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita. Because if you're to look at a pearl, if you've seen the oyster, so there is an oyster, then you have the shell on both sides, and the pearl is right in the center. So you can say that that's really the pearl of knowledge. And you could say that chapter 9 or the confidential knowledge is a lot like the pearl in the oyster, which is the Gita. Also, if you were to look at, say, kings, and if you really see the processions that they normally go, you will find that there is a procession in the start and in the latter, and you'll have the king in between. So that also shows how what comes in the middle is very, very important, and that's what Krishna is really trying to say. Now, what chapter 9 does is it does talk about the confidential yoga, and the later part of the. Do you know how many verses are there in chapter 9? Just take a guess. It doesn't matter. 42. What would you say? How about you? Oh, you saw it. Okay. How about you? Okay, it's 34, and so it's 34, and we are in 32, and the last few verses of the Gita is where Krishna talks a lot about the glories of bhakti, or love, and I'm going to try to see how we can unpack this entire thing about love, because we keep hearing about love. So let me ask you all a couple of questions. When you say you love someone, what would you like to do with that person or to that person? Everything? Could you give an example?
Attention.
Give attention, absolutely. To see them happy, yeah. Give the whole of your heart, yes. And I can see from the expressions on your face how happy you are when I'm speaking about this word love, right? Because we love, and our love has got a recipient, and the recipient can be a person. And when we give, we like to make that person feel happy. We like to make that person glad. And you can relate to, maybe your son or your daughter. It could be your parent. It could be your friend. It could be anyone else. It could be a partner. So there is a lot of that feeling of love. It evokes a lot of good things. Now let me ask you a question. Is it in love? Do you give or do you take? Give. It's a bit reciprocal. It's reciprocal, okay? What did you say? It is reciprocal. It could be. It could be unconditional as well. So actually, let's reflect on our relationship with God and the divine, and ask yourself and just reflect on what are we normally taught when we start, what do we ask God? We ask God for a good career, good grades. We keep asking Him for things which we want in our lives. Is that right? But have we ever asked ourselves, what is it that we can give to the divine? What can we give to divinity? And what would your answer be? Devotion.
How can I serve you?
How can I serve you very well? Yeah. Absolutely. So it's all a question of devotional service. So going on to say that when you look at love, love is not so much about asking, it's not so much about taking, it's a lot more about giving. And that really is the essence of the glories of bhakti that Krishna speaks about here. So he does talk about the lower classes, and he's made references to Shudras and Vaishyas. So do you know who are the Shudras, who are the Vaishyas, and what are the other classes?
That the Sudras are the workers,
Yeah.
the Vaishyas are the general mercantile class, like
Yeah.
entrepreneurial class, and then there's I'm not sure if you mentioned about like Kshatriyas,
Hmm.
that the Kshatriyas are like the warrior class or administrative class,
Yeah.
like a ruling class,
Yeah.
and then it's the Brahmanas who are like the teachers or the priestly class.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Now, now let me ask you this question. So, who's created them? Who has created these four classes? Man? Mankind? What do you say? Krishna. Yes,
Yeah, that Krishna.
it is Krishna. What would you say? It is Krishna. And many of us, actually, when I first learned about the Gita, I mean, just before the Gita, I really thought that it's something that's being created by man, because, because of the occupations we have. So, and I keep hearing, because I was born in India. So I grew up, knowing, about, Brahmanas, about Kshatriyas. And to me, I felt, oh yeah, all this seems to be man-made. But when you read the Gita, you realize that it is not really so. You didn't know that? Okay. And I'm just going to read this particular passage. It's chapter 4. And this is what he says. Chatur varnyamaya srishtam gunakarma vipagashah tasya kartaram apimam vidya kartaram avyayam. So what he says here is that according to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. That was a revelation for me when because I didn't know this. So Krishna makes a couple of points here, which is according to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them. So could we really understand what really is, what's he talking about? What are the three modes of material nature?
Tamaguna, which is a mode of ignorance.
Yeah.
Rajaguna, which is the mode of patience. And Sattvaguna, which
Yeah.
is the mode of goodness.
Very good. Thank you so much for that. So he created like three modes of material nature, and that's what really governs us in the world. So we can operate at different levels of consciousness. One would be Tamaguna, which is ignorance, then Raja, which is in the mode of passion, and then Sattvic, which is the mode of goodness. So if you take examples of that, so they say that like human beings operate at one of these levels, and based on that you have these castes. Now, who among the four classes are closer to be to be in the mode of goodness or sattvic? The Brahmanas, okay, of course, and then who would be what mode will the Kshatriyas be operating in most of the time?
Patient. Mode of patience.
Yeah, mode of passion. Yeah, Rajas. The mix of passion goodness would be the Vaishyas, so the mercantile class. So the Kshatriyas would still be more of passion. So you have like Brahmanas who is in the mode of goodness, and then you have the Kshatriyas who is in the mode of passion. Then you have the Vaishyas who are in the mix, as you mentioned, of passion and ignorance. And then and the Shudras are who you look at from a completely they are ignorant. And then if you go even further down, there are these dog eaters and chandalas. So you can really come to those demonic, and we don't want to go there. So they are the middle, the lower earth. So definitely not. So these are the four classes. And what does Krishna say here in this particular verse?
He's saying that if you devote yourself to Krishna, it doesn't matter which class you are, you will still attain.
Yeah, you'd still attain, the supreme, the supreme realization, and that to me, when you hear it, isn't it very, doesn't it feel very inspiring? Because it doesn't really matter who you are. It doesn't matter which religion you are. You can still actually, come closer to Krishna, right? That to me is so empowering, and that's really that. And to me, this if there is one mode that really brings to me, it's really about, he's empowering everyone to say, you can come to me. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter who you are, etc. So let's take a couple of examples. And how many of you know about Vibhishan? Do you know who's Vibhishan? Yes. So he was Ravana's brother. And thank you for that. And what did he do before the war?
He gave counsel to Ravana to try and persuade him.
Absolutely. So he was trying to persuade Ravan, and he had a person who was born in a demonic qualities. So probably the Shudras or maybe even lower. But he still was operating in a consciousness where he was warning Ravan. He was saying, "Oh, it's wrong to abduct Sita because you can't do that. It's not right. So please don't even give Sita back to Ram." And he was telling, "Please don't get into this battle with Ram at all." So he was saying that. And when he realized that he could not really convince his elder brother, so what he did was he. Just when Ram came and he and his, Lakshman, Hanuman, and the Vanaras, they were standing on the edge of the ocean. He actually went there and he said, "I'm surrendering myself to you." And he comes all alone. He doesn't even know how he's going to be, because he's coming into what is typically enemy territory, if you would imagine. And he just comes and he surrenders himself completely to Ram. And what does Ram do?
I'm guessing he accepts.
He accepts. He embraces him, because here is someone who's giving his complete, I mean, we spoke about love. So he's ready to give his love, he's ready to give his heart, he's ready to give his life to the, to Ram as well. And Ram is so happy to just hear that, is to see the devotion in him. So he says, I will make you the king of Lanka. And this was at a point of time when even the battle was not won, and nobody really knew who is going to be winning the battle. So in spite of that, Ram did say, that I'll make you king of Lanka. So basically, this goes on to say that if you really surrender yourself completely to Krishna or to Ram, because Ram is a manifestation of Krishna, then you can actually really achieve your supreme happiness. You can achieve whatever you want, not only in this material world but also in the spiritual world as well, which is quite sounds quite inspiring, isn't it? Yeah. And another example that I would like to share, how many of you and this is coming a bit closer to to the 1500s, where we had Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the reincarnation of Krishna in the mode of Radharani, as we know. So he also wanted to take the name of the holy the name of the holy name everywhere. I mean, he wanted to take it to everyone, to every village, to every street, etc. So there were these two Brahmins who had fallen into terrible ways, Jagai and Madai. And they were the most depraved, they performed, the most heinous activities and crimes, etc., which none of us would even dream of doing it. And they were Brahmanas, they were born as Brahmins. So they were Brahmins, but then they had fallen to such an extent that, they were performing some of the most heinous activities. And even, and even they actually got mercy, by Nityananda and then by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And do you know how? Would you like to try?
That they were causing trouble, and Lord Nityananda tried to preach to them, but they were very angry. They can't remember which one of the brothers picked up an earthen pot and threw it, and it hit Nityananda Prabhu on the head and caused him to bleed. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very angry, and Nityananda Prabhu he took compassion on these two fallen brothers, and he convinced Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu not to kill them. He was taking out his Sudarshan chakra, and then they immediately felt the presence, and became aware of that Lord Chaitanya Prabhu is the supreme, and they immediately bowed down and paid their obeisances and became devotees, is what I remember.
That's very well summed up. Thank you so much for that. So it also goes on to say that, the God, so in this what happens is that the two of them, what they did was they threw a stone at Lord Nityananda, and who's a very, who's the dearest friend of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So whenever anyone does anything to his devotee, then the Lord takes good care. So in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being very angry that Lord Nityananda has been hurt, it also goes on to say that if you're a pure devotee and if you really surrender yourself to Krishna, no harm is going to really come to you, because he'll always be there to protect you. So how many times do we always think, I wish I had a dear friend? Because many of the times, how dependable our friends are, right? And many of the times you say, oh my gosh, you may have a best friend, but then suddenly, you may have an argument with that person, etc. So you keep asking ourselves, can I really be a friend with someone who'll always love me, who'll always care for me? And that's really what, Krishna is. So despite all of that, so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was angry. But the point of the story is also that even someone as fallen as Jagai and Madai still have the opportunity to really embrace the Lord, and once they embrace and surrender themselves, then they can find supreme happiness. It just speaks about the mercy of the Lord, isn't it? Yeah. So this particular passage talks a lot about the glories of bhakti. It talks about the importance of devotional service, and it really talks about also about how we need to surrender ourselves completely to be able to get to where we are. So let me ask you all a couple of questions, which is how easy or difficult it is in your day-to-day life to perform devotional service. I know you live in the temple, so it might be probably a bit easier for you. But do you find moments when you have some uncertainty in your mind?
Because I'm human, so
Yeah, of course, I have some uncertainty sometimes. Often, because we are conditioned by this material nature, so they are like things that we think we need to be happy, but that's actually an illusion. And yeah, that can make you struggling because you think about it and you forget to serve Krishna, actually, which is the more important. So you want to serve you, your senses. And then, yeah, you get trouble.
True. I mean, our senses are, something that's so difficult to really control, and we experience that all the time. So there are those, and this is where there are those divine, qualities in us, but there are also, not so divine qualities. And here's where I think if there's something that can really help, it's this thing about is Krishna someone, is Krishna outside or is he close to you? He's inside. And how does he, what's his form when he's inside you? What do you call him? Paramatma, yes, indeed. So he dwells in your heart like as a Paramatma. And one thing, you're seeing that there are lots of these differences, that we see, because when you, in the passage it talks about like Vaishyas, Shudras, women, etc. And many of them, they look very different, but are they really so different? And here's where I would like to share. So the Paramatma is is much deep within us, and a good analogy of this would be looking at two birds sitting in a tree, and there is a bird. One of the birds is quite busy pecking away. It's kind of trying to make a nest. It is trying to feed worm to its little ones, and it's really caught up in this flurry of activity. So it's like running it's like fluttering around, doing this, doing that, etc. And then you have the other bird who is very calm, very silent, and this bird is observing this particular bird in actually doing whatever activities it is doing. So if you have to look at it, pretty much what we are, and in terms of our individual, we are our mind, etc., is the bird which is doing a lot of actions, because that's what we are doing in this material world. And the Paramatma is an observer, and he guides you in making those decisions, in having you do those actions. Now, one thing that he has, he observes you and he fully supports you because he gives you the intelligence, he gives you, he gives everything that you need. But why do we then take actions and decisions which are not always appropriate? Why does it happen?
It's the ego and conditioned self.
It is the ego, it is the conditioned self, absolutely.
It says in the Bhagavad Gita in the earlier chapters, like chapter 2, about this all-devouring enemy known as lust, which is situated in the intelligence, the mind, and in the heart as well of the conditioned living entity.
Absolutely. So how many of you know about this chariot? Okay, so the chariot, you could say that we are the driver or the chariot, but then we don't really own the chariot, isn't it? Because it's really something that belongs to Krishna, and we are just custodians of that. So we are just like temples in a way. So yeah, I think that's a good point. So many of the times, what we do is, well, Krishna gives us the intelligence to really operate on a higher level of consciousness, but we don't really do that because we have free will, and that free will actually we use it in a positive way, but we could also be using it in a not so positive way as well. So, and I think as you mentioned, and I think even I go through this because I don't live in the temple, so I live outside, and then we do have my responsibilities. Have to go to work, and many of the times you do find yourself being tormented by like different distractions. And during those times, what it really feels helpful is to just connect with the Paramatman who's within us. And when you do that, you'll find it a lot more peaceful. That's what I found. And coming to this particular passage, because you do interact with many kinds of people. So you interact with colleagues, you interact with like friends and potential, strangers, etc. But many of the times, do you spot the differences or do you spot the similarities? The differences, because the human mind is so caught up in looking at how different we are. You know what? He's tall, she's short, he's fat. This one is brown, that one is white. This one is probably from East Europe. He's from Brazil. He's from India. Can we just see how many divisions we have created for ourselves? So, so it's just not the four castes that we're talking about, but then we have created so many differences. It could be like women and men. The way we look at each other is so different. And are we really that different? Probably not, because this passage also highlights the fact that in the end we're all the same. And here's where there's just one passage that I really quite like. It's in chapter 5. Do you know what which verse I'm going to be referring to? Just as a, it's text 18. I'm just going to talk about that. I'm just going to read the Sanskrit. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Kavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapake Cha Pandita Samadarshinaha. And the translation is, the humble sages by virtue of true knowledge see with equal vision a learned and a gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater. So, So this really, points to the fact that it's very easy for us to see differences in people, but can we really try to find similarities? If we find similarities, then if we can see the Krishna hidden within each one of us, then we can also be more inclusive, and we can also bring Krishna much closer to them, just as we are trying to, come closer to Krishna as well. So, does it make sense? Okay, so now we have a few minutes. So I think these are all what we did. So we have a few minutes. Are there any reflections, any questions that you may have? Not just on this chapter, but also and not only on this verse, but anything at all. Any questions?
So I'm just reflecting on, you know, when we see everybody as, we try to see everybody as equal, everybody and everything, because there's Krishna in everything and everybody in the middle. So trying to practice that is a really good thing to do in
Yeah.
daily life, because when you do that, then the ego cannot be involved, and then you can come from the purity of Krishna's and his love, and you can see everything and everybody as kind of equal and with the essence of Krishna within, and it will help negate you know, differences, because it's divisive and it divides everybody.
Yeah.
And I think this is what we need to learn as human beings, especially in this Kali Yuga, that we need to look at everything and everybody as Krishna.
Yeah, everybody has got like a quality of Krishna, and I think those are excellent points. Which also brings me to the point. So when you do devotional service, when you serve with with other devotees, what do you feel? Joyful, yes. Elated, yeah. What do you feel when you do devotional service with other devotees?
I'm satisfied and elated,
Satisfied, yeah.
blissful.
Yeah. So I think coming very close to your point also is it's also about the association you have, isn't it? Because it's one thing to, of course, treat everybody equal and try to see the Krishna. But in case you do tend to fall into some of those moments of an agony, etc. Then it's always good to have that good friend, and that's where association like this, really helps. I have started, so I have, for example, been involved in the School of Bhakti, in some of the services, and also whenever I come to the temple, I have an opportunity to interact with, devotees, and to me, there's so much of learning that comes. I mean, I feel so warm. You feel so welcomed in all those associations. That's why we keep coming to the temple again and again. And you want to probably spend that time here forever, because you can see the energy, you can see the positive, the spiritual energy that goes all around you. And to me, I get my my injection, my booster here, and then I can spend a week, and then I can come back again, and then go to the week and come back. So we all need to find those moments where we connect with the perform devotional service, and you can do it individually, you can do it with a group, as we always love to do. And that can also help us really see people, see the sameness in people rather than seeing the differences. Isn't it? Yeah. Any other reflections? Thank you for sharing that. Anything from your side? Anything from your side?
Can you please go through, you were talking about the chariot and the driver of the chariot. Can you explain that again,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem at all. So the entire, a human being, you can think of them as a chariot where, you have the horses, and then you have the the charioteer who's there, and then um, so you can see the mind, so the senses are pretty much like the horses, because the horses are so they can move in all directions, and you need someone to really hold them all together. So the chariot is more like, we all like run our own chariots, but then we have our mind, we have our intelligence, we have our senses, our five senses, which keeps like telling us many things. For example, you see something beautiful and you'll say, oh yeah, that's very beautiful. Or you hear something which is very nasty and say, I don't like this at all. Or you want to like rebuke somebody, you feel angry towards someone, and hence your tongue is like wanting to really say something. So all so the horses could actually take you in multiple directions, but then if you're really a charioteer, I mean, if you hold the reins and as a driver, you can really be the Paramatma, and you could and if you really allow the Paramatma to guide you, then he's also going to come. He's also going to take you much closer to him. So it's more about inviting, Krishna, like how like right in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. What happened in chapter 1 and what happened in chapter 2? Could somebody tell me about the relationship between Krishna and Arjuna? Right at the start.
Vaguely remember Arjuna did not want to go into battle because his family, he would have to involve his family.
Yeah.
in this.
Yeah.
And he was really in two minds as to how can he do such a thing.
Yeah.
And then Krishna was trying to explain how I want to get it.
No, absolutely right. And what happens in the second, in the early part of the second chapter?
Arjuna has a dilemma.
He has a dilemma, and what does he do with the dilemma?
It's a change of relationship that
Absolutely.
he surrenders to Krishna in that.
Thank you so much. So Arjuna and Krishna were like cousins, and they were dear friends, etc. So that was the mood in which the first chapter was. And of course, you did mention that Arjuna had a dilemma. But in chapter 2, what he does is he actually surrenders himself, and he says, please instruct me, because I have become your your disciple. So that's a big change. And many of us, if we can just like do that, saying that, God, Krishna, I'm like overwhelmed with all that's happening in this particular world. Please take me as your disciple. So and you can do it through Krishna, and if and you can also like take a bona fide spiritual master. And Prabhupada's teachings is a lot about that, because if you read his books, the Gita and all his other books, it can just help you get that practical wisdom for you to really lead your day life on a more in a more happy plane. Definitely.
I found it interesting, Prabhu, about what you said about how sometimes we can focus on the differences and that how we're not so different after all. So I was wondering, how can we still focused on our similarities but still accept the externals and still have harmony?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. And I think one key thing that we need to probably remember is we are not the body. And that's something that we do find it a bit difficult, but if you always think of like, I have this body, I have these two hands, this is my arm. But when I say this is my arm, it means that it is not me, that there is someone who is actually owning this, and that is the soul within. And the soul within, just because it's so minute, we don't really appreciate it as much. We don't. I mean, we see the visible rather than the invisible. But although the soul, I mean, they say that it's like 1/10,000th of the tip of your hair. So it's really very, very small. But if you always try to think of everyone as being a soul, then it's probably going to make it a bit easier for us to wish away the differences. Now, for example, you, Prabhuji, is, you're wearing this cap and you're sitting, standing, and then Prabhu, and each one of us looks so different. But in the end, we are not really so different after all, because our quality is very similar to what Krishna is, and it's a divine quality. We are small, and Krishna is, of course, like all opulent, etc. But then it's always good to remember that we are all souls and we are not the spirit soul, and we are just inhabiting this particular body, and at some point we'll be moving to someone else. So after this, it's just like wearing garments. So you wear new garment, and this is the garment that I'm wearing in this lifetime, and hopefully I hope that through my actions I'll be coming closer to Krishna. So the next time I take birth, or not take birth, it comes, I make that roadway that much closer to back to Godhead. So it's really about, it's not easy, but I think it's always good to remember that we, at the end of the day, are spirit souls. Does it answer your question? So thank you so much for joining me, and maybe what we could just do is we could just end with just a short prayer. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Chaitanya manobhishtam sapitam vena bhutale swayam rupa kadam mahyam tadatidam sadadikam. Shri Vaishya Om Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Let's close our eyes and just a couple of minutes meditate on the name, on the holy name. Let's pray to Him to help us develop our love for Him. Let's enjoy the glories of bhakti.